Streams. Get that going.
Ready, Terry?
Going live. Go for it.
Good evening and welcome to this forum for the Independence City Council sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties. I'm Cheryl Barnes and I'm a member of this league. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization and our membership is open to everyone. We neither screen nor endorse candidates. Our mission is to empower voters and to support our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. We are here for this voter education event to provide an opportunity to listen as the candidates present their positions. Voters have submitted questions via email at forumquestions@lwvkc.org up to an hour ago. The candidates running for the Independent City Council have been invited to participate in our forum this evening, and you will hear from Bridget McCandless and Mike Huff shortly. I'd like for you all to know that the other league members volunteering with me tonight are Elizabeth Darr, our timer, Terry Lane, our Zoom board tech host, and the forum's chair, Anitra Steele, who is also our legislative forum coordinator. The forum is being recorded and will be available and archived on the league's webpage, lwvkc.org. lwvkc.org. The candidates will order each question in a random order, which will be back and forth with the two of them that I've already shared with them. Each will have 90 seconds to respond to your questions. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you can go back to an issue during your closing remarks for which you are allotted 2 minutes. We'll hear from the candidates now, and we'll start in alphabetic order with Mike Huff. Mike, can you speak to your background and experience that makes you best suited to serve on the city council?
Well, first of all, I worked for the city for 35 years, so I know all the ins and outs of how things are done in the city. I've talked a lot about that. Some people want to believe it, some don't. I did serve on the city council from 18 to 22, so I have 4 years of experience. I brought on 29 resolutions during my tenure. Most council people have 4 or 5. Like I say, 29 of them, some good, some bad. I reduced power rates within the city. I represented the people, I thought, very well. And that would be probably my experience.
Thank you. Bridget, speak to your background and your experience that makes you well suited to serve on the city council.
Hi, I'm Bridget McCandless. I am an Independence native and have been lucky enough to work here and raise my family here in Independence. My background is that I am an internist, which means I'm an adult medicine doctor. And you might think that makes me uniquely unsuited to serve on the city council. But I have also gone back and gotten my MBA. I ran a free clinic for 15 years with more than 200 volunteers, serving several thousand patients without health insurance. And then I also became the CEO of a large health foundation. So I have managed large staffs, large budgets, investment portfolios, et cetera. I retired and had no intention of running for public office, but our city councilwoman, Karen DeLucy, recently died. And so we had to have a special election to replace her on the city council. I have had great fulfillment from a life of service. And in my family, to him who much is given, much is expected. And that is part of the reason that I'm running. I've encouraged many other people to run for city and other positions. It's now my turn. I selfishly admit I want a city where my children want to come back to live, and that takes some thoughtfulness to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. And the next question, we'll start with you, Bridget. Who do you think won the 2020 presidential election and why?
I think that Joe Biden won the election. And the reason I think that is because elections were conducted with the rules in place. Certainly, there were many challenges to that election, and none of the judges found that there was substantial issues that would have negated the election. So I think that's been very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, who won the 2020 presidential election and why do you think that?
Well, our president, good or bad, whatever, is elected, is Joe Biden. So he is our president. And a lot of discussion with that. I don't really know. I mean, like I said, as far as I'm concerned at this point, and from day one, he is our president. So that's all there is to that.
Okay, thank you. We'll get a little bit closer to home now. Areas of town have seen an increase of unhoused people loitering, stealing, and bothering residents. How would you handle this situation? And Mike, we'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, this has been a real issue. It's a tough issue. We have to be compassionate. As a councilman for the last 4 years, put in a lot of different resolutions. My biggest concern, number one, is the public safety, of course, and I've always been that way. Number two is the littering and the trash left behind by these individuals. That's the biggest problem I have. In fact, I had a resolution on the shopping carts and a resolution on the thrift stores that, you know, we need to slow that down there. It's not so that we just don't see mattresses and clothes and everything all over the streets. Since that, have seen a reduction of it. I have seen an increase in homelessness. It's a real tough issue. We have drugs involved. We have mental illness. You know, my thing is that if there's a person out there that needs help, I'm there for them. I will help them. I've got 3 homeless people that I've given them jobs. I've given them housing. And so, you know, like I said, if the people want help, I believe in giving them help. If they choose that lifestyle, then, you know, we just have to figure out if it's mental illness or drugs and see if we can put them in the right direction.
Thank you. Bridget, unhoused people loitering, stealing, and bothering residents, how would you handle the situation?
I think that this is one of those where an individual approach makes good sense and also a coordinated approach. And by individual, I mean, you have a variety of people who are living without homes right now. You have actually school children who are living with their families in pay-by-the-week motels. You have people who've been priced out of their apartments who are living in cars with friends. You have some people who have been on the streets for a very long time, some of those with severe and persistent mental illness. So a one-size-fits-all approach will do very little for that. I also know that if Independence pushes one way and Kansas City pushes the other, it doesn't serve either municipality. We need to really work as a region to be able to address homelessness. And that requires the resources and thoughtfulness of many organizations. So in Independence, those would be Comprehensive Mental Health, they would be Salvation Army, Hope House, the Housing Authority, the school district, the police department. And we've not done a very good job of coordinating and partnering with other municipalities, which is part of the reason that we've missed out on some of the grant money that's been available to help address what is a difficult and long problem to solve. I think we have real opportunities if we approach it with a coordinated approach. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you think Independence needs more of? And this question will go to you, Mike. Bunk mansions or affordable housing for working families?
What was that question again? I'm sorry.
What does Independence need more of, McMansions or affordable housing for working families?
Well, I'm not, the word affordable housing kind of bothers me because I think the word needs to be changed. It should be quality housing. I have some of the lowest rents in Independence. I have quite a bit of property and I try to make it the quality housing that I wouldn't mind living there. As far as the mansions versus that, you know, I'm not a real fan of high-rise apartments in Section 8 in certain areas. We have a couple of them on the west side of Independence, northwest or northeast, I'm sorry, that does quite well, but it does take a lot of money and there's some issues there. But like I said, I'm more into quality housing rather than affordable housing.
Thank you. Bridget, what does Independence need more of, McMansions or affordable housing for working families?
I would say that any community needs a spectrum of housing. You need high-end housing, you need moderate income housing, and you need housing that's available for working families. Some of that does need some subsidy in order to make that affordable. Certainly rents are rising, and that has put a lot of strain on families where they're dedicating almost up to 50% of their income to housing costs. That means that they're sacrificing a lot of other things. The only Section 8 housing that's been built in Independence was built in the early 70s. Fortunately, the Partnership for Affordable Housing has come in and done a lot of renovation and remodeling in that to make that area look better. And Community Services League has been working there to help that be a place for opportunity for jobs and training, not just housing. They have a savings program that a portion of the rent goes into escrow so that those families can raise themselves out of poverty. But I think especially with North Point and with some of the other job opportunities that are coming to Independence, you really are going to need housing across the spectrum. The great news is that 4,000 new people have chosen to call Independence their home. So we have had an influx of new people with their energy to rejuvenate our housing stock. And we've seen a lot of remodeling and revisions. So I'm delighted to see that people are putting their energy into the homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is kind of an interesting follow-up to your points that you made, Bridget. And this question will go to you first. How do you address an eroding tax base?
So almost all municipalities base their revenue side on sales tax. And when we had lots of mom and pop stores and everyone stayed local to be able to purchase what they needed for their homes, that was a very reasonable model. Over time, we added some franchise fees, so cable and phone, those provided some additional tax revenue, but those models are changing as well. I do appreciate that we added a use tax, which means that when people purchase things online, a portion of the sales tax is coming back to the city to support revenues. We do get a small amount from property tax, and being able to bring new businesses in that fit the model of shopping that people are exploring now. So one of the things was the fulfillment centers that we are hoping to attract in the Little Blue Valley will help prop up that tax base. I do think that also watching the budgetary side matters, because you can't have ever escalating costs without attending to how you reach a balanced budget. So I think it has to be both attending to revenue and to spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, how would you address an eroding tax base?
Well, it's a real issue out there since we're brick and mortar has failed. I think it's coming back a little bit more here lately. But the city charter in, I think, 1964 decided at that point that they was going to have a pilot and not real estate tax. So we have only a special areas that get taxed that the city receives anything. Most of it we do off of pilots. And so pilots have to do with all the utilities that come in here. And so it's 9.95. I always just call it 10% just to make it easy. And so these numbers never really change. So it is a problem, because it, like Power and Light's 150 million. So you get $15 million a year. And that's something that needs to be addressed. We did pass the Wayfair thing in a few years ago or 2 years ago, where we started getting tax money off of the internet sales because that was killing us. Actually, I really think that the brick and mortar is coming back. I'm a real advocate of independent center. I have, just something that I've lived here my whole life, and that's very, very precious to me. But we definitely need to think about that tax base, that's for sure, and where we're getting our revenues.
Thank you. And Mike, we'll start with you with this question. What opportunities do you see for stronger neighborhoods?
Stronger neighborhoods. There's a lot of opportunity out there. I worked with a lady over in Sycamore Hills, which crime rates were very, very high. And she visited with me as a councilman, and I went over and helped her set up a neighborhood watch and that type of thing. And actually the crime rates reduced. Absolutely. It's incredible. We had the police department out there and everything else talking about how we could help each other, with cameras, lights. And really the biggest thing is that we know our neighbors and who they are, because we're all kind of sitting in houses, and the internet and everything's kind of destroyed all that. So Sycamore Hills is one of my big ones, and Carriage Hills is another one, is that we have picnics and we have things to try to get a hold of these neighborhoods. Neighborhood councils are starting to come back. They were here for quite a few years. There was 5 or 6 of them, which failed due to funding and stuff like that. But I think we're going to get back to that, that we need to, neighborhoods need to help each other out. So.
Thank you. Bridget, stronger neighborhoods?
I think stronger neighborhoods are really the backbone of Independence. It's what our city is known for, is neighborliness and good places to live. There are areas where abandoned housing is an issue. I think we have opportunities to work with organizations that are able to rehab and repurpose those either vacant lots or abandoned housing to make those viable for both providing money for the general tax base, as well as improving the look and feel of neighborhoods. Neighborhood associations were stronger when I was a kid. UMKC Center for Neighborhoods has done a beautiful job of being a supporter to help neighborhood associations rejuvenate. And I've been working with Dina Newman to bring those resources to Independence so that we can help our neighborhood associations. I've been working with a group in Western Independence trying to address issues that they see. And so they've come together to do shared problem solving, work with the city, work with codes, work with police, so that they can improve and strengthen their neighborhoods. I just see a lot of good energy around people trying to make Independence a better place, and definitely they're working at the neighborhood level. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bridget, we'll start with you with this one. Independence is one of only a few cities in the United States that owns and operates its power, water, and water pollution controls. Wholesale water customers get water cheaper than independent city customers. Why is that?
So if you think about the gas that comes into your gas pump, there's the cost for the actual gas, and then there's the cost for the gas station. So when we sell our water as a wholesale product, we are selling that raw material to other communities, but then they have to pay the cost for piping it, infrastructure, water towers, fire hydrants, billing services, meters, etc. So they put the cost of that before that bill goes out to people in their city. If you look at Lee Summit and Blue Springs, actually the independent city customer pays a little bit less for their water than those other municipalities who are buying our wholesale. So it's a little unfair to compare the wholesale rate to what the customer pays at their home because of all the infrastructure that needs to be layered on top of the cost of water. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, Independence is one of only a few cities that owns and operates its power, water, and water pollution controls. Wholesale water customers get water cheaper than independent city customers. Why is that?
Well, actually, I know the answer to this, and it's going to probably unravel a few people, but you know, water is gold. We're seeing it more and more. It's become quite an asset, and power will be there the same day. But the actual fact, the reason why wholesale people, this might be a little alarming to people, the reason why the wholesale people are getting cheaper prices than Independence is because Independence is tied to Sugar Creek. And Sugar Creek was made a deal years and years ago, long time ago, when it was Missouri Water Company, and the city took that over from them. And when they took that over from them, they made an agreement with Sugar Creek. And the agreement with Sugar Creek is that no one else can get it cheaper than them. And there's all kinds of inner workings with that. And so as a council member, I complained about that to the water company. And the fact is that they said that their hands were tied as far as like Lee Summit, Blue Springs, and everything else. Now, when the water lines and things break in the city, the outgoing cities, the only thing they're responsible for is transmission, which is like a line of 18 inches. I wasn't a water guy, I was a power and light guy, but there's a certain size of a water line was called a transmission line. And that's the only thing that these people are responsible for. Everything else in the city is ours. And I will continue to fight for that one.
Thank you. And Mike, we'll start with you on this next question. What future do you see for the reconstituted health department?
The reconstituted health department? Well, I was part of getting that health department back here. They got rid of it. And I was one of the biggest supporters of getting the health department back here. Unfortunately, it happened, you know, with COVID and everything else, which if we read the charter of the City of Independence, it states very well right there that we have to have a health department and we have to have a legal department, and they failed to do so. And unfortunately, the COVID come in and caused a lot of problems there. And like I said, I was a big advocate to get that health department. In fact, I was one of the biggest supporters. There was 4 votes up there, and I was one of them 4 to get that health department back here in this city. So.
Thank you. Bridget, what future do you see for the reconstituted health department?
So Independence closed its health department in March of 2018, and we were without one, although we were under the Jackson County Health Department during that time period. They reconstituted in December of 2020. And I think if anybody has been paying attention, you recognize how important public health departments are to the well-being of a community. You know, they have some core functions. They're supposed to help prevent disease outbreaks and spread. They're to protect environmental hazards for the community. They are to support and promote healthy behaviors, and they're available to respond to disasters. Right now, we have a health department. I would not consider it a robust health department. The majority of the positions are supported by grant funding, which means that they are not necessarily going to be there from year to year if those grants aren't continued or extended. it takes a lot of time to be able to have a robust health department that is looking for disease outbreaks, that is able to respond to the community, and that's available in times of emergency. So it's going to take a lot of partnership and intentionality to be able to do that. We should have memoranda of understanding with the Jackson County Health Department to be able to share some services so that we don't have to pay for all of those ourselves. But there's no question that we need to be sure that we have a robust health department. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will start with you again with during the pandemic, Independence historic and tourism sites took a major hit, losing funding and staff. Will you work towards improving support and funding now? Where do these fall on your list of priorities? And we start with you, Bridget.
I will admit that this is near and dear to my heart. I have served on the Truman Presidential Library Board for the last 5 years and have been just delighted with how well our renovations to the Truman Library have turned out. And that was a national, state, and local partnership to get the renovation done. I think the Truman Library has done its part, and with it being located in Independence, it is such a great opportunity to draw people from all over the United States to Independence to see what wonderful things that we have. We do have a lot of deferred maintenance on our historic sites. The 1859 jail, Vale Mansion, Bingham Wagner, they all need a lot of TLC. But one thing you certainly are seeing is that people are still coming and visiting and enjoying the grounds and the Strawberry Festival and other kinds of celebrations that we've had there. So they are a critical piece to bringing people into the city, which also helps with our tax base. I think this is an area that the city needs to really do a 10-year master plan on its historic and tourism sites and think about how we can dedicate some additional dollars to that. We have a guest tax that provides some money, and I am hoping that we will be able to free up some additional dollars to be able to capitalize on the wonderful things in Independence.
Thank you. Mike, during the pandemic, Independence historic and tourism sites took a major hit, losing funding and staff. Will you work towards improving support and funding now? Where do these fall on your list of priorities?
Sure, it's one of my top priorities, but it was way beyond the pandemic. These particular historical sites, the gate is not pulling enough to maintain the buildings. I happen to be on the one of the first board of trustees for the Vale Mansion. Very familiar with that. When I was like 20 years old, when the city got that in the state, I was put on that board. Our biggest thing is that the cost of maintaining these buildings and not getting enough money in there. Another thing, the part that really bothers me about it all is that in the schools and everything these days that, we've almost lost, like, this is the Santa Calaga, the 3 trails here. It's almost went to the wayside, and it's very important that we are a historical town. We do need to invest in our buildings. We need private investors, but the gate's just not pulling enough money to maintain these. We're talking, and $3 or $4 million to get these buildings up and running. I mean, they're falling apart every day, and the city's just going to have to figure out a way to how we're going to get that through private or some other means, grant or something. But definitely on my high priority list. That's one of the reasons people come to this city.
Thank you. And we start with you, Mike, with this question. During the primary, the number of expired temporary tags on Independence Street was mentioned. Is this something the Independence Police should follow up on and ticket? Have there been any studies on the loss of tax revenue when cars go unlicensed?
I'm sure there's always a loss of revenue. The problem we had is, number one, we had a lot less police out there. It wasn't one of the priorities. Now it's stepped up. I don't see as many these days. Of course, the state and everything else give people leeways, and some people took advantage of it. But I don't know so much that we lost revenue as far as a city in a great amount, but I really don't have them numbers. So I couldn't really answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you. Bridget? During the
So-
primaries, go ahead.
Sure. When you purchase a car, you don't have to pay your taxes immediately. That's why you get a temporary tag. And then you're supposed to follow up with the county to pay your taxes on your vehicle so that then you can get permanent tags. While it's collected at the county level, it's actually a state function. So one of the best ways to approach this is to do it through the state. So working with Department of Revenue to find a way to look at that database and send out letters to car owners, letting them know that they're beginning the clock of having a penalty, I think would go a long way to helping those get paid. I'm not positive that you want to put your police in the position of pulling over everyone with an expired tag. Certainly, the police officer who was killed up in Excelsior, that was when he pulled someone over for an expired tag. We want to be sure that our police are engaging with citizens when it's something that is absolutely requiring the police. If there's another way to approach it, I would much prefer that. So I think that we work with the state to work on temporary tags. Thank you.
Thank you. And we start with you with this question, Bridget. Would you support a ban on assault weapons in Independence because, in large part, because of the recent shooting in St. Louis?
You know, that's a really complicated question. It would be illegal for Independence to put in a ban on assault weapons because that has been determined by the state. So if you end up contravening state law, you end up just in a struggle for with lawsuits and excessive costs. I don't know that that would actually be enforceable at the city level. The only way that you could do that would be having police be involved with recovering assault weapons. You would be able to stop sale of them, but not outside city limits. So I think that would be just an untenable solution. I really don't know what the answer is to school shootings. I know that we have to start always with people, and having us work on the mental health and well-being of people, making them connected where that is not a choice that they want to make. Do I think that assault weapons provide any benefit to our city? Absolutely not. I don't see a reason that someone would own one or that we should be selling them, but I don't know that the city is in a place to make any rulings on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, because of the recent shooting in St. Louis, would you support a ban on assault weapons in Independence?
Well, I agree with Bridget on this one. I don't think that we have anything to say about that. This is a federal thing. And I do believe in the Constitution of the United States and we the people, and that we have a right to bear arms. I believe that assault rifles are a little much. My biggest deal with that is once again, the mental illness. I don't think that a practical person, sane person goes out and buys assault rifles to go in schools and stuff like that. But I am a constitutionalist and I believe in the right to bear arms.
Thank you. And we'll start with you, Mike, with this one. What are the top 3 things you're going to work on as a city council member?
Well, my biggest thing, and I see it failing day to day, is transparency. Transparency is my number one. There's a lot of that not happening up in the city. Number 2 is, and they kind of tie, is public safety. I'm all about public safety. People are not going to live here unless we have good safety. We have police out here. We have fire department first class. I believe we have that now. We lack a little bit in equipment. That would be my top two. And of course, then is economic development. I did make a statement the other night on a forum that the Gee Hall building up there, I said $30,000 a year. It's $30 an hour, but I just want to correct that. But definitely economic development, public safety. I think our schools are doing very, very well. We had that low in a few years back, and that's one of the big things that, to attract things like that, is getting school safety, that type of thing. So that would be my three top.
Thank you. Bridget, the top three issues for you elected?
So my top three things would be the look and feel of the city. That is roadside trash, weeds, and how safe people feel in their city. Can you walk your dog? Can you ride your bike? Can you go for a walk? Do those things feel comfortable for you? I think homeless is a growing concern and requires a coordinated and thoughtful approach, like I mentioned before. And my third would be neighborhood stability and strengthening through work on abandoned housing and neighborhood associations. All of those make people want to stay here for the long term and continue to invest both in their homes and businesses. If I can add a fourth, it would be really trying to come up with a comprehensive approach to commercial buildings that are currently not used and how the city can help to put new businesses in those and make sure that we're maintaining them while we're waiting for tenants to come. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start with you on this one. Harkening back to downtown and eroding tax base, what kind of economic development stimulus would you use to attract business to Independence? What kind of economic stimulus or programs would you use?
So success breeds success. And the more that we shop in and patronize our own businesses that are here, the more willing other people are to bring new businesses, shops, restaurants to our area. It's easy to use our whole metro, but I hope that we are concentrating some of our own economic development in our town. That's the first one. I think that we have to be exceedingly careful with use of tax increment financing or TIFs. They have sometimes not worked out very well for the city. Certainly using CIDs, which are community investment districts, have allowed for regional areas that need some rehab to tax themselves at those businesses and the patrons who come there to be able to rejuvenate, repave, work on issues along street lighting, et cetera. And then there are other tools that can be used like TDDs and other instruments. All of them need to be examined with a careful eye to what risk does the city take on and what benefit are we able to give to new economic engines that come to town. One thing we've done is actually supported the Innovation Center, and that's home growing about 100 businesses right now that we hope will transplant from the supported Innovation Center to other spaces in Independence and continue to thrive here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, what for you economic development programs would you use to stimulate business in Independence?
Well, I'm not a real fan of TIFs. It hurts our schools. We're giving the city away, and in the schools, that's where we need our future is. As far as the SIDS, I see them out there a lot. I'm kind of disappointed in SIDS. I realize what the game is there, but the biggest thing is that the businesses vote on that. And a few local, within a certain area, and they boost this SID up, and they charge you 1 cent more on your purchase. And so the unaware person that walks into this city, we're sitting on 7% tax, and it ends up being 10 by the time we get through with the SIDS and all this other stuff is pretty disturbing to me. I think that, definitely we need to look at them. They usually take that money and then 4 or 5 years, 10 years, whatever that contract is, they disappear off the face of the earth. That's why we have all the empty buildings and everything. We have the Walgreens, now we got CVS that's walking off because all this stuff disappears. All these money giveaways, and now we're looking at North Point down there. We're giving the city away down there, and hoping that they provide some jobs, which I'm definitely for jobs, but that's another story.
Thank you. That is a complex topic for sure. Mike, we'll start with you with this one. Missouri has historically been very difficult for people to get on Medicaid. Is there something the City of Independence can do to help people get on Medicaid quicker and easier?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know where that question, that's way beyond a local issue. I wouldn't know how to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Bridget, do you have any ideas of how Independence can help lower income people get on Medicaid since the state is slow and made it difficult?
I have to actually tip my hat to many of the organizations in Independence who are doing this work. So Truman Medical Center, Swope Health Systems, Centerpoint have all really invested in helping people qualify for Medicaid. Community Services League directs them to resources to be able to sign up. You can sign up online. It's getting a little bit easier, and the state has invested some dollars into converting their online application system. I am hoping that the coordinated application system will be available in the next year, where you would be able to apply for SNAP benefits, WIC benefits, Medicaid benefits, and child care subsidy, all with a single application in a single system. That is the dream, that those systems will share that information with each other. In the meantime, I give a tip of the hat to caseworkers who are working now to be able to sign people up. The good news is that the state of Missouri has actually reduced the number of days for processing an application. It was 115 days at the peak. They're down to about 16 days now for application processing. And so the state has enrolled about 150,000 people into the expanded Medicaid program. And I'm really, really grateful to the people who voted that in. So thank you.
Thank you. And we start with you, Bridget, with this question. Do you have an idea of a couple of ways that Independence could work with Kansas City that would be beneficial to both communities?
As Kansas City goes, so Independence goes. And I have to say that there is obviously a very porous border between Independence and Kansas City. So things that happen there bleed over into Independence, and the same thing the other way. I think police coordination is one very big one. I don't know if you have ever looked at the border that runs through 40 Highway. Sometimes you have Quick Trip where the front of the building is in Independence and the back of the building is in Kansas City. So whose jurisdiction is it? It is very complicated. So having good working relationships between the police departments is important for jurisdictional issues. The other is, we share the ATA system, and being sure that Kansas City attends to the needs of Independence, and Independence is a good partner to the ATA, the Area Transportation Authority, is key. Back on 40 Highway, we have a bus stop there that is really quite a mess. It is in the Kansas City side, so Independence does not have any authority over it, but encouraging Kansas City to take care of those edge districts really, really matters. I think that we have real opportunities, as I said before, in homeless coordination and grant sharing, because that issue is a shared issue between municipalities. Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, same question. A couple of ways that Independence can work with Kansas City to the benefit of both communities.
Yeah, as a councilman and in the 4 years there, we've tried to get with Kansas City. The major issue at I-70 And Sterling was a big one, and it was separated on that side of 40 highways, Kansas City. Of course, we kept getting phone calls, and people are just very perturbed about that area down there and all the trash stuff. And people living under the bridge and stuff. But we tried and tried and tried. I know that Councilman Perkins had many, many meetings over there on his side of town. That the thing is that Kansas City is bringing homeless over to Independence, and that's really causing us a lot of issues here. And basically, Kansas City hadn't proven to be really a reliable neighbor. There's a lot of issues out there. I mean, I come into this town and it's like we have no thoroughfare that we don't go through Kansas City or anything that we can, if a dignitary comes through town, I mean, they've got to go through Kansas City, basically 435 off the airport, and our gateways are atrocious. It's just really tough. Like I said, we have tried to talk to Kansas City, and they really haven't been very receptive.
Thank you. And Mike, we'll start with you with this question. Are there plans to help individuals reduce energy use or to promote energy efficiency in the city?
Yes, there's been programs for many, many years. We have iShare, actually, that we help people pay their light bills. It was around $300,000. And then we have weatherization that we provide. We have actually low interest rates at the credit union, the city, for people to get into to help reduce them utility cost. So, I mean, there's a lot of programs out there. I think community service community league has that stuff too. So, but yes, there's a lot of things for weatherization and to reduce electricity use and utilities.
Thank you. Same question to you. City plans to help reduce energy use or promote energy efficiency, Bridget?
We do have programs to help people pay their bills, but that's not the same thing as energy efficiency. We have a weatherization program. It's not very well promoted, and I think really many people don't know that that opportunity exists. And I think we have a way to make that part better. You can put solar, and I've been surprised how many houses, as I've been out knocking doors, have already installed solar panels. It takes a little bit of work to figure out how that's going to integrate with the city utility. You can find it, but it's not an easy resource to come up with. Certainly other utilities have instituted AMI, which is advanced metering. That means that you can look at how much electricity you're using on a given day. You can look at when the rates are the most expensive and choose to use less energy during the expensive times. In places that have done a good job of promoting advanced metering, they've been able to allow the customers to really drive their energy utilization and therefore their costs. Now, it comes with a cost to put that on. The meters in Independence are pretty old, and so they're not as accurate as the new meters would be. I think that it's a real opportunity for people to be in charge of their own energy futures. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll start with you on this one, Bridget. Does Independence have a domestic violence shelter? If yes, how well is it used? Is it full? Does it need to be expanded? If no, why not?
So Independence does have a domestic violence shelter. That's Hope House. And I'll put in one little family note there is that my dad was on the original board of directors to get Hope House started many years ago. Hope House has been around, I think, since the late 70s, early 80s, and it serves women and children. Now, with all domestic violence shelters, it's tough to get older teen boys housed, and that can be a problem. I do applaud Hope House for trying to figure out what to do with pets, because that's been another reason that sometimes women do not leave unsafe situations because they can't get their pets out. One nice thing about the domestic violence system in Jackson County is that it's coordinated. So if Hope House doesn't have a bed, they partner with New House and other shelters to be able to find housing for women who are leaving those domestic violence situations. One thing we do not have is shelters for men. And while it's easy to think that men are not in battering situations, that is not the case. So I think that is still an opportunity for Kansas City to be able to address.
Thank you. Mike, same question. Domestic shelters, is it full? Does it need to be expanded?
Certainly, like Bridget said, the only one I know of is Hope House. That's really the big one out there. And of course, we always could expand and improve. There's nothing perfect out there. You know, I'm sure that the pets and everything else is an issue. But I think they're doing a real good job out there at this point, but certainly we can always expand things like that.
Thank you. We're about at the end of our time, and so I would like for you to collect your thoughts and make closing remarks. It'll be 2 minutes. Audience, thank you for joining us for the questions that you sent in and your interest in the election. We do hope you'll vote Tuesday, November 8th. The forum will be archived on the League's website, lwvkc.org. And Mike, we'll start with you for your closing remarks in 2 minutes.
All right. I've lived in Independence my whole life. My family lives here. I want others to come to Independence, and I love this city. I've worked in this city as an employee for 35 years. My family still lives here, my mom and dad, my son, my sister. I know how the city works. I know the history of this city. And, you know, we need to work on having a better future here. And with the right leadership, more transparency, that we can make independence for all and just not for some. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget, your closing remarks, please. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I know that you won't always agree with me, but you will always know that I do my homework, that I listen to learn, that I will act with integrity, and that I will do my very best to consider the entire city in the decisions that I make. Independence has a lot to build on. As I said, new people are moving into the community. People are investing in their homes. I see some momentum and dynamism that is emerging on the business side. And we also have wonderful people who work for the city. People in public works, people in parks, police department, fire, IBEW. Those folks come and bring their A game every day to the city because they live here and they want it to be good too. The council has the important position of being thoughtful and steady. And one council's job is to leave a roadmap for the council that follows so that you have seamless transitions and that you can do things that require long-term thinking. So I am hoping that we are able to put together those sorts of plans that allow us to stay on track and keep moving the city forward. It is really easy to complain, and people are awfully good at it. But my dad always said that no complaining. If you want things to be better, go do the work. And I'm willing to come and do the work. So I hope that you take the opportunity on November 8th to go out and vote. And I hope that I have earned your vote and will continue to earn it during my service to this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget McCandless and Mike Huff, for your time this evening. And this concludes our program. Thanks again for joining us. Good night.